And a TGIF, everyone. Welcome into the First Call podcast. First Bet and Express Bet representing here. He's Scott Shapiro. I'm Jeremy Plonk. We're going to handicap some big stakes races. It's opening day on Friday here at Keeneland as we record the podcast. We'll look at Saturday stakes races, part of the Fall Stars weekend at Keeneland. Huge weekend in New York for Breeders' Cup preps as well. And it's Santa Anita. Not only a $104,000 carryover in the Super High Five for the final race on the Friday card, but another weekend with the new Sunset 6 Pick 6 wager, the Coast to Coast Pick 5, and Breeders' Cup Stakes galore as well at Santa Anita. So, Scott, we're getting close, right? I mean, we're like 4 weeks out from the big event now. This is pretty much last call. You're not getting in too many more Breeders' Cup preps beyond this weekend. And, oh, yeah, a little ditty called the Arc de Triomphe on Sunday in France as well. What a weekend.
Yeah, it sure is a big weekend. You love it, these early fall weekends, as we start to think about the Breeders' Cup. We got college and pro football in high gear, one of the best times of the year. And after this, we're going to be kind of ready to do our handicapping for the Breeders' Cup, other than, post positions and knowing exactly who's in the field. But macro sense, we're going to get a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I mean, race replay study, watching workouts, all that kind of stuff gets done well in advance when you got 14 Breeders' Cup divisions to talk about. We're going to talk about 8 stakes races here on this weekend's podcast, as we do each and every week. For those of you watching on X or on YouTube, be sure to share this out, comment in the comment section, help us grow the audience. For those of you on our longtime traditional audio podcast channels, here are the races Scott and I are going to handicap over the next half hour or so. We'll start things out on Saturday at Keeneland with 4 of their 5 stakes races. We're going to handicap the Woodford, First Lady, the Breeders' Futurity for the 2-year-olds, and the Coolmore Turf Mile, $1.25 million big purse in that one. To Santa Anita on Saturday, 3 of their stakes races will be in our docket. It's the American Pharoah for the 2-year-olds there, the Rodeo Drive in the Filly and Mare Turf Division, and the Oakleaf for the juvenile fillies. Keeneland has the Alcibiades on Friday, the Oakleaf on Saturday for the 2-year-old fillies at Santa Anita. And, of course, Belmont at the Big A on Saturday. The one race we're going to spotlight is the Champagne for the 2-year-olds, but there's also the Frizette coming up this weekend. So we're going to know everything we need to know about the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and Juvenile Fillies divisions after the end of this weekend. Want to remind you also a big Saturday at Woodbine. We're not going to handicap those races here on this podcast, but we've got a money back special for you. Get up to $10 back on your win bets on the 3 big stakes races Saturday at Woodbine. Those are the Nearctic Stakes, the Dance Smartly, and the Canadian International. Good set of races at Woodbine coming up on Saturday. I've got those covered for you in a blog called 18 Stakes in 18 Sentences. We take the Express around North America with all the big stakes races this weekend. Check out that blog at expressbet.com and also at news.first.com. Some of those Woodbine selections, all 3 of those races are included in that blog. But, Scott, we want your opinions on this podcast, so let's get rocking and rolling at Keeneland on Saturday. Race number 6 is our first handicapping chore. It is the Woodford Stakes, 5.5 furlong turf sprint. In this one, we've got a field of 9, not the capacity field we often see in these turf sprints. And I like to say in a turf sprint with a big field, it's about trip and chaos, and the best horse doesn't always win. But you start getting a little more room to operate on the turf course, and these races become a little more predictable, I think, in the turf sprint ranks. How do you see the Woodford shaking out?
It's an interesting point. This is usually the oversubscribed or full field, and then the grade 1, the 2-turn turf races are bigger fields than we're used to seeing, particularly the First Lady, which was standing room only. But world record, who's one of the potential speeds in here, is going to run in the Phoenix, I believe, later on today, recording it on Friday. So he's out of here. It still should be an honest pace. You've got Joe Shiesty, who missed the break last time, but otherwise has one way to go, and Don Show amongst others. And I think what comes to trip, like you said, I don't know if Governor Sam is the same horse he once was, but I think we're going to get the answer today, and hopefully at a decent price, better than most of the price he's been thus far. He's just going to get a really good trip. He's got the tactical speed. He's cutting back from a 6.5 furlong race at the Franklin Simpson at Kentucky Downs grade 1 in name only. So I won't say class drop, but I think he's just going to get the perfect trip here. George Weaver cooled off a little towards the end of the summer, but 8 for 35 over his last 30 days. So Governor Sam, I think this is one last shot for him, to get back to his best.
Last year, he won over this course in the Indian Summer. It's a 2-year-old. He's now 3 going against elders. His big stakes win at 3 was the Quick Call at Saratoga. Let's go back and take a look at that one.
Wheat Joe, they're at the top of the stretch. Ortley Avenue Now here's Governor Sam, cut loose and blows on by at the 8th pole. On the inside, no evidence, trying to get into second, and they're followed by Insubordination. It's all Governor Sam making short work of the competition in the quick call. Governor Sam airs. George Weaver won.
You've got the right guy in the saddle, Irad Ortiz Jr. Get this, Scott. Turf sprints at Keeneland. How do you like a 30% win rate for Irad?
How long of a 5 years or how long?
That's going back 10 years.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, since 2014, actually 11 years. So, yeah, I mean, Irad really rides these turf sprints beautifully at Keeneland over the years. And he and Joel Rosario are just guys you circle in turf sprints at Keeneland. Rosario not riding here on the Saturday card at Keeneland, obviously. So, Irad Ortiz, you got the right rider aboard. The right trainer in these turf sprints is Wesley Ward. He wins 26% of his turf sprints. He's won this stakes 3 times. He's got a Rest Me Red down on the rail, and I don't mind a rail horse in a turf sprint when the field's not capacity. That's a horrible place to be when there's 12, 13, 14 in the field, but with just 8 in here after the scratches, it's actually a fairly comfortable spot for him down on the hedge. A Rest Me Red the last 2 times on the rail. 1, including a allowance race here at Keeneland on the turf back last fall. I'm going to take the 1 in here. Rest Me Red, my top choice. You've got the 7, Governor Sam. Let's go from the 6 at Keeneland. We're going to skip the TCA race number 7 on the card. That's kind of a pitfall. I have no idea what's going to happen with a bunch of fillies out of form in that one. So we're going to move the race number 8, the First Lady Stakes. And this is a really good betting race. One of the best betting races, I think, of the entire weekend, Scott. Full field in here. The First Lady, grade 1, 1 mile. These fillies could come out of this race and look at 3 furlongs farther in the filly and mare turf, or a lot of times these fillies end up going against the boys in the Breeders' Cup Mile. We'll see what shakes out of this race. Good international cast, good local cast. This is a great betting race.
Sure is, and it's been the Chad Brown Invitational over the last 7 years. He's won it all 7. He's got 2 in here, and they're both going to take a lot of money, you would think. Dynamic pricing likely to go off favor, you would think, at least based on recent form. And Sagesta, who comes in off a runner-up effort at a nice price at Kentucky Downs. I'm going to try to beat them both in here. This is an outstanding race, like you said. So many different options, so many different ways to go. That's kind of cliche, but I actually feel it's true in here. I'm gonna take a big swing here with a little bit of a narrative with a horse that we know is probably good enough to win the race on their best and should be a good price. That's number 3, Nanda Dea. 8 for 10 in her career. One of the losses was 1.25 miles over in Argentina against grade 1. She doesn't want to go that far. She's just done very little wrong in her career. Now, she came over here, and Nacho Correas, who's the trainer, brought her over from his native land, Argentina. Now, Nacho is going to retire at the end of the year and head back to Argentina. He's had a long, storied, pretty storied career. He's been very, fortunate. In his words, Blue Prize probably his best. I think Distaff winner a few years back. But Nanda Dea won 2 races impressively. Looked like his next and last South American, graded stakes type winner here. And then we didn't see her, and we haven't seen her since. Now, normally that would be a big red flag, but I'm hoping that it more helps the price here. She's been working forward at Kentucky Downs for a long time here in preparation for this race. Now, I doubt it was the plan to miss all that time, but at some point it feels like Nacho, set his eyes on this race, and he's got his man in the saddle and Jose Ortiz, which I think is a pretty good sign. Jose probably could have landed in some other spots here. So I'm going to go with number 3, Nanda Dea, and what I hope is a narrative win for Nacho on his way out in what has been a good career.
Again, she hasn't raced since February. If that concerns you, she was off an 11-month layoff when she made her Keeneland debut here during the fall meet last year, and it was a success.
Cakes Fly is there. Justifiable Bell along with Nanda Dea, who is unleashing a run to the far outside. Quality Star looks toward the inside from 5th. Nanda Dea coming forward, and Nanda Dea has the lead in the final furlong from Join the Dance. Then Quality Star, who's gone to 3rd, now runs toward 2nd. It is Nanda Dea in front. Nanda Dea for Jose Ortiz to win it. Quality Star was up for 2nd. Join the Dance 3rd. Close for 4th.
Scott's going with Nanda Dea in this spot. I'm going down on the rail to Choisha in here. Frankie Dettori riding for Simon Crisford. International runner, but been bedded down here in the state for some time. In the spring meet, won the Jenny Wiley over this course. That going a mile and a 16th. Now cuts back and trip after running in the Diana at Saratoga. That's been a pretty good angle in this race. Horses from Saratoga, horses cutting back and trip have had a lot of success in here. So I'm going with the one in here, Choisha. Let's remove a lot of the variables. Save some ground along the hedge. Shouldn't be on the lead, but should be fairly forwardly placed and get a decent trip under Frankie Dettori. I'll take the one in here. You had mentioned Chad Brown winning this race 7 years in a row, and we're not taking him. We'll probably get stoned in the annals of handicapping stakes races for not taking Chad in here. But this is one of the most ironic stats, weird stats that you're ever going to see. Chad Brown has won this race 7 years in a row, 8 times overall. Not a single one of those horses was favored. That's unbelievable.
That is crazy. I mean, I've thought about
I mean, how do you run out 7 in a row in the stakes after 4 in a row, 5 in a row? But he runs 3-4 in this race a lot of years, and the public hasn't gotten on the right one. So if you think dynamic pricing is going to be the favorite for Chad Brown in this race, jump all over Sagesta. Sagesta's the one you want in here based on the way the public has figured this race out or not figured out over the years. Special one on the also eligible list in there. Keep an eye on the scratches and changes for Saturday to see if that morning line chalk would actually scratch into the field. To the 9th race we go on Saturday. It's the Breeders' Futurity. First of 3 big 2-year-old races that we're going to handicap on this podcast. Breeders' Cup Juvenile will take a lot of shape after this. Of course, we know Brandt on the West Coast won the Del Mar Futurity. He's just training up to the Breeders' Cup by all indications. So we'll sit and wait on him. But 3 big ones are going this weekend. Starting with the Breeders' Futurity, it's a mile and a 16th, race number 9. On Saturday at Keeneland. Look, horses are going to be stretching out in distance in this race. That's typical of what we see this time of year for the 2-year-olds. Favorites have won this race 5 of 11 years since going back on dirt, and there's a big favorite in this one. It's going to be very tough to beat, Scott.
Yeah, without question. It's a tough thing to push someone to gamble on a horse at a very short price that's trying something new in a field where most horses have done very little wrong thus far. But sometimes horses just look faster, classier, and better than their competition. And It feels that's the case with number 6, Ted Nafi, who was good in his debut at Saratoga, but not great. In fact, he almost was 4-1 in a 7-horse field on the Hopeful, where he put a different type of effort in, one that was very eye-catching and is going to make him a very short price in here. You look at pedigree, maybe you can make a case. There's definitely better pedigrees for stretching out. He has the look of a serious horse that I think they were a little surprised he took that big of a step in his second start. So I have a feeling he's going to be just as impressive this time stretching out.
Big, brisk, late pace figure if he runs back to that visually and numerically. He'll handle this mile and a 16th. And remember, they end at the 16th pole finish line at Keeneland in these mile and a 16th races. So it's a little easier of a stretch out than stretching out a full 2 turns and a long stretch run at some other places.
Inhales Soldier and Diplomat as Butane takes up the chase on the outside, and in between, Curtain Call's running a big race, 1 furlong left. Ted Nafi with a 2-length lead. Curtain Call trying his best, but is no match for Ted Nafi. Ted Nafi in those legendary colors wins the Spendthrift Farm Hopeful by 8. A brilliant performance.
8.5 lengths, the official margin in there. Good call by Frank Miramati. Ted Nafi's competition here could come from Ewing, the son of Nix Go. Nix Go won this race as a 70-1 long shot back as a 2-year-old. Boy, what we didn't know then would he turn out to be. And, of course, Nix Go would come back as a 4-year-old, win an allowance race at Keeneland that set him up for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, which he also won at Keeneland. Nix Go, a young stallion now. How will his offspring like Keeneland? If they like it as much as he did, Ewing could be in a good spot here, Scott.
He could. I've got my questions about whether he's fast enough or more so the distance. Patrick Ewing could cover a lot of ground on defense, but this horse, maybe he'll prove me wrong. I mean, they spent $585,000 for him. Nix Go stands for 12.5. They obviously saw something isn't seen in all Nix Goes, at least when they bought this horse. So Griffin Johnson will be pulling for this horse, but I'll be pulling for Ted Nafi.
You're anti-influencer.
No, Griff. You and Griffin boy.
Let's go to the 10th race on Saturday, the $1.25 million Coolmore Turf Mile. These are Breeders' Cup Mile aspirants, obviously, and what an international cast we have in this year's Keeneland Turf Mile. The Coolmore Turf Mile here. You got Diego Velasquez coming off a win in the Prix Jacques Murat in France, a race in which he beat the horse who came back to win the Woodbine Mile next out in notable speech for Charlie Appleby and company. Wood Shauna's in here, 3-year-old from Europe. John Quill, another 3-year-old from Europe. So I think there's an international influence in this race that's going to be very strong, Scott. As far as the Turf Mile goes, favorites have lost the last 9 times in this race. So if you want to step out a little bit, you could potentially look at something like that in this race. I think Diego Velasquez probably goes as the favorite, and I think he's the most likely winner. But if you want to gamble in this race, it's not a bad spot to do so.
I wish I had the exact stats, but outside of the Breeders' Cup, I kind of feel, and this is obviously without data to prove it at the moment, but Aidan O'Brien, when he goes off favored in these races, non-Breeders' Cup stakes, it just doesn't seem like he wins all that many of them. Maybe that could be my gambler in me remembering back to stories, but I'm going to let him beat me if he's the favorite. I have a lot of respect for him. Obviously, his form over there in class is without, argument. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a couple in here of American-based horses that have got good shots to run well. And I say American-based. The 8 Program Trading is the one I like most. Brilliant Birdie is the other. But Program Trading, if he gets back to kind of that what he was building on before he went to the sidelines in June of 2024, I think he's, got a huge shot to win this race. Last time out, he did not get a setup at all. And look, I mean, that was off almost a, 15-month layoff?
Right.
He ran a good second. I know he was 1-2, and Chad Brown horses can be, should be ready to fire fresh theoretically, but Donegal momentum had everything his way that race. Yeah. He's in here as well. As we'll take a look back at that in a moment, but he's on the rail, but he's not almost zero shot of having things that easy this time. So I think Program Trading is not only going to get, a better race shape, but he should move forward here, second off the layoff. He's 5 for 8. I think this is Program Trading's race to lose.
Yeah, Donegal momentum. We'll go back and look at that. Bernard Baruch. He's going to have company in here from Quattro Centro right next to him. The sprinter Howard Wolowitz probably has some speed, and Epic Ride's got some speed in here as well. So much more contentious pace than what they had in the Baruch.
Northern Invader comes to challenge at the top of the stretch, and Program Trading has a clear seam on the outside. They're in the final furlong. Donegal momentum coming back for more on the outside of Northern Invader. They're head and head coming for the wire. 2 more back to Program Trading in third. Donegal momentum, Program Trading, Donegal momentum, or Program Trading, Donegal momentum. What a brilliant ride. Donegal momentum, rationed to perfection by Arad Ortiz Jr., defeats Program Trading in the Bernard Baruch. Northern Invader finished third.
I did misspeak earlier when I said favorites have lost this race 9 in a row. They had lost 9 in a row until last year. That's when Carl Spackler got the victory for Chad Brown, son of Lope de Vega. Scott, I think you're in good company. Program Trading, son of Lope de Vega for Chad Brown. They're both looking to double back up here. And Program Trading, your top pick in here. I'm going to go to the Europeans in here. I'm going to kind of default in a 3, any one of the 3 situations. And when I get to the multi-race wagers in here, I'm going to be using all 3 of the Euro shippers in this particular spot. Obviously, the least value of those will be the Diego Velasquez likely on the tote board. So that's going to wrap up our handicapping for Keeneland for Saturday's card. Let's go back to the menu and tell you where we're headed next. From the Turf Mile at Keeneland to Santa Anita, the great race place on Saturday. Big stakes card on tap for the second weekend in a row. It's the second week of the September or October meet here at Keeneland. Or at Santa Anita, I should say. The American Pharoah Stakes will be first up in race number 3 that we handicap. We'll also look at the Rodeo Drive and the Oakleaf. American Pharoah, our second 2-year-old stakes race that we handicap here. We've got the big favorite in Ted Nafi at Keeneland in the Breeders' Futurity. When we get here to the American Pharoah Stakes, this race will have a solid favorite, I think, in Desert Gate, runner-up in the Del Mar Futurity for Bob Baffert. But I think there's a couple other options in here that are a little bit interesting. I think Christofferson for Baffert's also going to get some play. And I've got an upset pick in here. I'll talk about that one after giving you a shot to give me your pick in this race. Bob Baffert, 13-time winner of this race. He's won it 4 years in a row. Won it last year with Citizen Bull, who then added the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Is it Baffert's race again?
Well, before I wipe the chalk out of my eyes, I want to plug the one promotion we didn't mention yet, and we saved it because it pertains to this race on this day. It's the Breeders' Cup Bankroll Builder. It's a new promotion we're running. I think there's 12 opportunities, and each day there's a select race. You want to go to the promotional landing page for details. I also discuss it in a Santa Anita Spot Plays blog. That'll be up on both the First Bet and Express Bet blogs, but it's pretty simple. You just want to bet $25 on these races after registering for the promotion, and you'll get $5 in bonus bets for Breeders' Cup because they're going to pop into your account on Halloween, and you'll be able to do with them what you will. So the opportunity is to get $5 at 12 different times. You can do it once, you can do it 6 times, as much as you want. But the key on this day, on Saturday, we'll be betting $25 on the American Pharoah to unlock that $5 bonus. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be Baffert. Maybe you're going to tell me it's not, which is going to be awesome if so. But I think, Desert Gate, if Brandt's supposed to be the bee's knees, this horse ran really well last time, taking him on in there. He rode the rail on the turn. I think the inside post stretching out should benefit him. And Juan Hernandez sticks around. I think he looks like the best of the bunch in here, but tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, I don't think you're wrong. I just think we got a shot in here at a price at a horse who visually really impressed me in Intrepido. If you go back and watch the replay of his race last time, he was really sharp on the front end. He's gone the 2 turns already, so he's proven around 2 turns at Del Mar. And if you look at Intrepido's form, I mean, in his debut, he ran against Brandt, Civil Liberty, Balboa, some of these horses, a major improvement from the first start to the second. And in that race, he beat Plutarch and he beat Providence. Providence is the son of Monomoy Girl, who Baffert trains, who came back and won easily next time out. Plutarch, who's also in this race, is the son of Stellar Win. So he beat 2 absolute regal pedigreed Bafferts, going a mile already. Can he line up and beat 2 more Bafferts? Well, he's done it once before. And again, visually, I thought Intrepido looked really, really good. And the fact that this is a $15,000 son of Maximus Mischief, a Ridgeling, that they paid $385,000 for at the 2-year-old sales this spring. He's supposed to win now. He's not supposed to be a good horse down the road. He's supposed to get a quick turn on the investment. I'm going to give Intrepido a shot in here because I think we're going to get the right price.
I like it. I got to go back because it's been a while. Jeff Mullins, every now and again, I'll have a big price. He had a big price 2-year-old. One of the years I was in at Del Mar that was awesome on debut and then was very disappointing. And then he had, who's the horse that got scratched on Derby Day, or the favorite way back? I Want Revenge,
yeah.
But, he doesn't pop up with them often, but he gets capable. I'm going to go back and take an extra look at this horse. Very good points.
Your top choice in here, Desert Gate, coming off that big effort, though, in the Del Mar Futurity. Let's go back and take a look at that one.
Brandt arrives at the quarter pole in front. His lead is about a length now. Desert Gate comes one off the rail to confront him at the top of the stretch. And they're joined by Litmus Test on the far outside. And they're into the stretch. And Brandt is put to the test by Flavian Pratt. Desert Gate and Juan Hernandez making a race of it on the outside. Brandt is in front at the 16th pole. Desert Gate doing his all, but second best to Brandt in the Del Mar Futurity. He won it by a length. Desert Gate was second, Civil Liberty and Litmus Test.
Heard the name in there of the 4th place finisher in that race, horse coming back, Litmus Test, running at Keeneland. So if you're going to do a little trip handicapping, kind of knock out 2 birds with 1 stone, check out Litmus Test in that race, who's headed to Keeneland for the Breeders' Futurity. I'm going to swing for the upset in the American Pharoah. To the Rodeo Drive Stakes, we go in race number 8, 1.25 miles on the turf. This is one of those sad stats I don't like to repeat, but the horses from Southern California have never had anything whatsoever to say in the Philly American Turf at the Breeders' Cup. It's one of those just really bad stats. They're 0 for 8 million, something along those lines. So let's see what comes out of the Rodeo Drive this year. It's a West Coast prep, 1.25 miles. They start down the hill at Santa Anita. Of course, Breeders' Cup this year will be at Santa Anita now, or at Del Mar. The other reason I bring up, the fact that these horses haven't had a lot of success in the Breeders' Cup is the fact that this year in Southern California, in this Philly American Turf division this summer at Del Mar, Graham Motion shipped in not one, but two different horses to win the big Southern Californian races, the John Mabie and the Yellow Ribbon, both Graham Motion shippers from the East Coast. I get a feeling the West Coast turfers aren't very good, and so I'm going to take a look at the horses coming from out of town again, and there's a couple of them in here. Will Walden is bringing Speed Shopper in from Kentucky. You got Long Ago for Bill Morey, another Kentucky-based horse who's been running in New York some. And then the third would be Amber Cascade for trainer Mike Maker. And I'm going to lean to Amber Cascade in here for Maker, coming off a second in the Flower Bowl. I just don't like these West Coast filly and mare turfers.
Me either, but I don't like Amber Cascade. I never have, but maybe Maker has moved her forward, you know. And I mean, I think last time was the time you wanted to bet her at 15-1, but I am going to go on the record and saying your over stat is not in jeopardy here in 2025. This race is not going to produce a Breeders' Cup winner, or I'd be shocked. But yeah, I thought Alpha Bella ran well last time. She had it her way last time. This is a horse that had been going in these route races on the turf for Todd Pletcher. For whatever reason, they took some shots in the dirt races when she moved into the John Sadler barn. It looks like some sort of, I don't know. I don't think it was a private purchase. I think they just moved her out west. She's run well, but maybe going longer on the turf out west against this level of competition, like you discussed, is what she wants to do. I don't think she'll have it quite as easy, but I don't think it's going to be crazy up front. It depends what Long Ago for Billy Morey does. That's the other one I give a shot.
She was a winner last time out at Del Mar on the front end. There's not much pace in here. Long Ago, the horse for Bill Morey coming west, maybe the only other one to kind of want to go with her early. If she gets the same kind of trip, she'll show you what she can do with it.
All the way so far. Sunset Glory's being asked for more speed. Mrs. Astor has saved every inch of ground, and now she'll angle just off the rail as they come to the top of the stretch. Alpha Bella turning for home in front. Mrs. Astor guided to the outside of her. Kentucky Gal down the center of the course. Alpha Bella still there with a furlong to run. Mrs. Astor not getting to her late. And it's going to be Alpha Bella to take him every step of the way. Starry Heavens got up for second inside of Miss.
Alpha Bella, Scott's top pick there in the Rodeo Drive. It's race number 8 on the card at Santa Anita, which means it's part of the new Pick 6, the Sunset Pick 6. Final 3 races on the card at Santa Anita, matched up with the final 3 races on the card each racing day at Gulfstream Park. So that unique Pick 6, it's no call players allowed in there. It's retail only, as they say in marketing spheres, and a chance for the $1 Pick 6 there that has 2 stakes races at Santa Anita. 8, 9, and 10 will be the Santa Anita races, including the 9th race, which is coming up here on our podcast, Oakleaf.
The Speakeasy is the 10th. It's 3 straight stakes races.
Well, all stakes. Yeah,
non-graded stakes. So that's a good opportunity for sure this week. You know, whenever you can get 3 stakes races with pretty solid turf fields, you got to be, or two solid turf fields, you got to be happy.
Now, I beat my head into the wall trying to beat Baffert in the 2-year-old colt race in the American Pharoah. He's a 13-time winner. He's also a 13-time winner of the Oakleaf. And guess what, Scott? I'm going to try to prove Einstein right in Insanity and look for a different result doing the same thing. I'm going Bonsai Betty in here. This was an incredible close in the debut. After being left at the start, rallied, galloped out way in front. I think this filly's got a future for George Papapadramu. I'm going to take Bonsai Betty on the stretch out in here. Out of a Lemon Drop Kid mare, bred to go long. I'm going to take an upset shot here. Look, Baffert's won it 13 times, but he's only one of the last 5. And for him, that's a drought in Southern California.
Man, you're embarrassed. Well, you might not. Maybe this won't be embarrassing come Saturday night when the results come in. But right now, I'm embarrassed with my lack of creativity. I just look at those Baffert numbers and just kind of buckle. Bonsai Betty did come with a strong late close, but they really did go at it. She's going to be a good price. I mean, no doubt about it. And you know who isn't going to be a good price? My top selection, Explora, who moves outside for the first time and the blinkers come off. Bob Baffert always has been really good when taking the blinkers off for the first time, especially on these young horses. You combine it with an outside draw. You know, she has to answer the distance questions, but you want to talk about pedigree. I mean, she's ready to go 2 turns immediately, you know. So the fact that she was able to win early shows that she's probably got a lot of talent, a lot of speed, and she just comes off an absolute fast bullet work. 5 furlongs, best of 110 5 furlongs and 59-3. So Explorer to me will be a short price, and we'll try to hope that Jeremy doesn't embarrass me too much on this week's podcast.
She been 1 to 5 and 3 to 5 and 2 starts, and she just outworked 100 older males. So, trying to beat her is probably not the way to go. But she did get beat last time in the Del Mar debutante. Let's go back and take a look at that race over 7/8 down on the shore.
Them in fourth, and they're into the stretch. Explorer the leader. On the outside, Bottle of Rouge comes on. Hamika's given way. It is down to Explorer and Bottle of Rouge with 1 furlong to run. La Wally is third and trying to come and get them. Explorer, Bottle of Rouge, and La Wally on the far outside, but it's Bottle of Rouge and close to home. Bottle of Rouge wins the Del Mar debutante. Explorer was second.
Explorer second in that one. She'll look to one up the performance. Doesn't have to worry about Bottle of Rouge this time. There's not much speed in this race. I know she went super fast in that race and got caught at the end, but she'll be able to go slower in this one, obviously, at a mile and a 16. Not going to be throwing 44s up there. There's nobody to go with her, really. I mean, she's got the control of the race. Hamika, her stablemate, might be the closest to her early on, and the two Baffords aren't going to go after each other in attack mode. So you've got the right horse in there at a short price, but why not? I'm going Bonsai Betty. I'm going to be Bonsai Plunk this weekend. We're going to pull one of these out.
Well, you should back it up. You just basically made a great case for Explorer, so I hope you play a 6-1 exactly to back it up.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. If you can get a price second behind the chart,
or one of them, yeah. So
exactly. You know, in terms of gambling too, like if you have a long shot that you like, you always want to get win money on them. No question about that. You don't want to have a horse come back and pay $20-22 and you don't have anything on the top end. But there's nothing wrong, instead of going in the place column, of going the back end of exactas, because that's going to pay better than the place more often than not, especially if you can focus those exactas and not worry about wheeling a horse second and things like that. Obviously, if you like a Bonsai Betty like I do in this race, you'll certainly want to get some exactas with that one as the runner-up, because if she runs a good race and runs second, you know, you could turn her into a 10-1 proposition with a $20 exacta, perhaps, you know, being underneath a horse that's more logical. Let's go to the Champagne Stakes, our final handicapping destination this week on the podcast, to New York. It's a big weekend in New York. They've got stakes races on Friday, big stakes day on Saturday as well. The Champagne is the one we're going to look at, which goes as race number 7 on the card. It's going to wrap up a big 3 stakes weekend for the 2-year-old colts in the juvenile division. We started at Keeneand with the Breeders' Futurity. We talked about the American Pharoah at Santa Anita. And now to the Champagne we go. One turn here. The difference between this race and the 2 in California and in Kentucky is they're going to stay around one turn in the Champagne at a mile. You've got a big time favorite in this one. It's Our Time. Scott, how good was he at Saratoga?
He was awesome, and I'm going to close out my Chalk Piro try here with I mean, to me, it's interesting that Tom Amoss opts to keep this or ship this horse back. At first, I thought he kept it in New York, but no, he brought him with him to Louisville, where Tom lives and has, his main string this time of year. And he ships this one back and keeps Big Dom McKeeneland for the quote unquote, what you would consider a more prestigious race, in my opinion, to Tom, who lives in the area particularly. But, I think I'm taking it as this is the horse he wants to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And this is a nice progression. The 6.5 to the 1 turn mile will set him up. I think this horse, Hero Declared, the horse that this horse beat by, yes, this isn't going to be a mistake, 17 lengths, as we'll take a look shortly. Hero Declared was like the biggest 2-year-old steam in the month of August on the Saratoga backstretch. And he toyed with this horse. So I think this is a serious horse. Tom will probably be a little quieter this time. He talked a lot when Hoosier Philly was a serious filly, and it didn't work out for her. So you might not hear the Derby gushing like last time. But, man, this horse was awesome.
You expect Tom Amoss, the New Orleans mouth, to slow down when he's got a good one? I don't think so. I think he's going to be hyped about this one, especially after this victory you'll see here.
Next and cost-effective, top of the stretch. It's Our Time has run right by Hero Declared. It's Our Time opens up authoritatively. Hero Declared is back to second, followed by Forever Man in third. What an awesome performance from It's Our Time. He's going to win by the length of the stretch. It's Our Time by close to 15 lengths. Hero Declared held second, and then Renegade, Forever Man, Supreme Good.
couple points about this one. I think you are playing the long game here with this horse because he has been treated with kid gloves since that last race. Look at the workout tab. Gets back to the workout tab on It's Our Time. Ran August 16th, back on the workout tab on September 5th. So that's about 20 days after the race. Typically 2 weeks, they're back on the workout tab. 10 days to 2 weeks. 21 days to get back on the workout tab. Then 12 days before the work, September 17th. 10 days before the next work, September 27th. And then back here running on October 4th. It seems like they didn't want to be either too cranked or that last race took something out of him. That's the question mark as a handicapper. Was he baby for this race because they're just going the one-turn mile and they want to peak for the Breeders' Cup? Is he playing the long game and playing chess here, or did this horse not come out of that big effort that great and needed more time to get back to the workout tab and space the workouts out? That's the question mark. The real positive, though, Luis Saez is going to ride this horse at Belmont on Fall Star Saturday at Keeneland, where he's been the leading jockey at Keeneland like 10 times in the last, 20, 25 meets at Keeneland. So that's a significant statement that he thinks this is his Breeders' Cup horse, not just a Champagne horse. So a little bit of mixed signals there. He's going to be awfully tough to beat if he runs back to that race.
No, that's phenomenal information for the listeners. I mean, that is all difference making. Could prove difference making stuff. To me, the Saez stuff is the more obvious look, but when you look at how they've handled him since, I also just have a feeling, and it may come back to haunt, I think the Hoosier Philly situation is going to be fresh in his mind. It's the last time he had a horse that got the gushing going, and he was very aggressive with it and, didn't back down from it. I don't remember if he gave more time after any of I don't remember it being the case. And,
right.
And then Tom has as many good horses and as many races as he's won. This is not something he's had, it's been recent since he's gotten these big ticket items. For a long time, he was more claiming, grinding, and some babies and stuff like that. But this is, it's a very interesting read. And it's I looked at the field beforehand, before I got to the horse, second page. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is interesting. I think Curtain Call is interesting in this race. There's some horses that certain Talkin ran well in this race. Last day on debut. There's some interesting alternatives if this horse doesn't fire.
Yeah, I thought the late brisk pace figures in the Hopeful were really good for II and Curtain Call in there, and we know how good Ted Nafi seems to be. So, I think those are the obvious horses that if It's Our Time isn't up to snuff and doesn't run anywhere close to what that debut win looked like, those would be the logical horses out of the Hopeful for me. So Curtain Call, II, the ones to also watch in there. Look, I've been around 30 years in the game. The first 20 years I was around, I would have asked the trainer, why the gaps in the workout tab? Are you playing chess or you whatever? I've been around the last 10 years to know that they were lying to me the first 20. So it wouldn't matter if you asked the trainer what they were doing, what the game was. If the horse had a problem, they wouldn't tell you. If they were playing the long game, they wouldn't tell you. So, that's the chess game too when it comes to the racing press. So when somebody says as a handicapper, well, you insiders know. No. That's not the way it works. It's like you talk to people and they tell you one thing and something else is going on. So look, as a handicapper, we're in the same boat. We've got to try to figure this out to cost, benefit analysis, whatever you want to say. If you think this horse is anywhere near what he has been, and is going to come back and run that sort of race, then it doesn't matter what the price is. And here you think he's the winner, you single him in a multi-race wager, you move on, or you try to find a price underneath them in an exotic. If you think from the contrarian standpoint that maybe there's a little red flag there, then you try to beat him with somebody else and you'll get paid right if you do so. So that's what the gamble's all about in this spot. I don't know. I think he's fine. I think they are playing the Breeders' Cup long game. If I had to guess, but at 1 to 5 odds, 1 to 9 odds, this horse is going to be destroyed on the tote. I wouldn't argue with somebody that went for Curtain Call or II or somebody else in this particular spot, especially as good as we think the hopeful winner, Ted Nafi, looked last time out. So that'll wrap up our handicapping for this weekend. A lot of big Breeders' Cup races for you. Scott mentioned that Breeders' Cup bankroll builder, the promotion that we have, the American Pharoah Stakes on Saturday, bet $25, get $5 back. That also goes for Friday's Alcibiades at Keeneland. So feature race Friday at Keeneland, race number 9, the Alcibiades. You'll get $25. If you bet $25, you'll get $5 back in your account. Those deposits go into your account right before the Breeders' Cup starts to help build that bankroll for Breeders' Cup Day. And the other race this weekend will be Sunday's Arc de Triomphe from Longchamp. So be sure to check that out on Sunday. The French racing, the big centerpiece race, Sunday morning. The Arc de Triomphe will be the other Breeders' Cup bankroll builder race for this weekend. Bet 25 and get $5 back. Sunset Pick 6 this weekend. Again, we told you the final 3 at Santa Anita, the final 3 at Gulfstream Park, and there's 10 times first rewards points when you bet that race, when you bet that sequence of the Sunset Pick 6 with First Bet and Express Bet. Scott will give you the final word on what is a huge racing weekend.
Yeah, one last thing. If you're watching this before Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, you'll have a little less than 105,000 in the double super high five carryover. I think you mentioned at the beginning,
Yep.
Santa Anita, race number 9, last race of the day. I think, if you're looking at that sequence, the 8 is going to be a horse everybody's going to like and use on the drop into state bred competition. Give a look to number 2, Lady Montclair in the number. The form isn't that good, but Richard Baltus has been rolling of late, 6 for 25, a 242 ROI over the last 30 days. Maybe she can get a piece.
All right, handicapping on the way out. We love it. Good luck to everybody this weekend, whether you're playing that super high five or you're playing the big stakes races across North America. Have a great weekend, everybody.